Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Pass+Move podcast. Today we're all in our retro shirts. I'm here with Tone, Dunk, Tom and Josh, of course me. Tom, what have you got on? What shirt?
I've got a very small Man United 05-06. I think it's the away shirt or the third kit.
Very nice. Dunk?
I've got my Orange Vit shirt on. This was a gift from the Andrews, Lenny Andrews, Tom Andrews and all that gang after the first Holland trip. Love this. We love the Orange Vit. Big part of who we are.
Love that. Josh?
Yes, Tom.
Can see that.
Player.
Can we
absolute baller.
Can we get a shot of the sheer amount of tops Josh has gone through before actually deciding on a part? We've started half an hour late because he's been going through what shirt to wear.
No, because the noise of him getting out is so irritating.
It's worse than waiting for my wife to get out the front door when we're going out to dinner. It was ridiculous. Look.
I can't wait for you to backtrack when she watches this.
No, she knows. It's like, you know when you're waiting at the door for him as well. All right, babe, love you.
Tone, what shirt have you got on while Josh goes through his?
I have got Argentina signed by 82 World Cup winner Ozzy Ardiles.
Ah, very nice. And I'm wearing England 2001, 2003. Steven Gerrard.
Stevie G.
Stevie G, lad. Fantastic shirt, you know.
Tone's classing that he's channeling Diego Simeone and he's competing with Brad in his English shirt. But does that make Brad Beckham? Surely not.
I'll take anyone. Dunk, we're going to hand over to you for this podcast. So,
Dunk, over to you, mate.
Not running anything.
Let's go, Dunk. Top three, son.
No. We decided we'd do top threes. Some quick fire top threes scattered throughout the podcast, but also we'd have a central topic. And the central topic was going to be, remind me, what was it? What could we do better? What could we do better? I'll tell you a couple of top threes to get started before we go on to the topic, the more serious stuff. Top 3 pre-match meals. Going for Tone.
What
top 3 pre-match meals when you're actually playing, yeah.
Donna, sheesh.
Didn't know Charlie was on the podcast.
Beans on toast.
See, that's me. That's my go-to.
Beans on toast. Or scrambled egg on toast. But I'd always eat around 10ish in the morning, and that would be it. I couldn't eat any closer to the game than that. Yeah, beans on toast or egg on toast.
John?
I rate the scrambled eggs on toast. That's decent. I normally have a sandwich.
Yes.
I eat a little bit later. But to be fair, we're normally coaching, aren't we? Before we play. So I'd normally eat sort of midday-ish. But yeah, sandwich. Jam sandwich, that's the one.
See, I forget you lot have got a completely different journey to us. There's because you're going straight from football coaching to training.
Yeah, we've never had
dotting around before we had to get to a coach or whatever.
Yeah, I'd go straight from work though. I'd work at mum and dad's shop and then go straight to football.
Oh, do you remember the shop?
So when I say pre-match meal, it'll be scrambled egg on toast down the cab. And then a massive bag of wine gums at
the way Dunn said that, he made it sound like we've been in lockdown for like 6 years. You remember shops? They were really good.
Tony's shop was a thing of legend. He used to get a right on when he used to turn up, and I'd be standing there still.
What do you reckon, Josh? Three.
Josh, top 3 pre-match meal. Have you got your microphone on, darling?
I quite like him when he's like that.
That's all right. I'll go while Josh sorts his microphone out. I'll go for a bacon sandwich, and that's it. Done. Always before youth football, I'd always have a bacon sandwich. Loved it.
Sauce or no sauce?
Oh, sauce. Definitely a bit of ketchup. But now I can't. If we're going to play in the afternoon, I can't have anything close to when we play at all. Like if we go to a calf after, I'm just not a fan, man. Really, I've got to eat really early.
Or Weetabix.
Or do that.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, Joshua, my darling. Go on, Joshua, my darling. What you got? Top 3 pre-match
toast.
Yep.
Omelette.
Oh,
poached eggs on toast.
Good from you.
Oh, poached eggs are the king of eggs. In all fairness,
I had them this morning.
Yeah, I rate that.
That's good. Beans on toast was the go-to always, especially if we had an away trip. You'd stop somewhere for a beans on toast as well. A fry-up. I know, but I like a fry-up. I love a fry-up before a game.
I remember playing it for Oddfellas, and Dunk was watching. I was hanging. And he was on the side. I think it was midway through the first half, and I was having a proper stinker. And he was on the sideline eating a double sausage egg McMuffin. That was the best breakfast I'd ever had mid-game. It was amazing.
I've tried pre-match meals. like Sunday morning football. So I thought that's a whole different discussion. We probably don't want to be hearing too much for children. And then the channeling the inner Italian, a little bowl of pasta, classic bowl of pasta.
Oh, Italy.
Oh, mate.
Maidstone.
Speaking of pasta,
I've got the
spaghetti
Italian
hoops on
pancakes
toast.
as well. Decent. Top
Spaghetti
three
hoops on toast,
match
better
songs.
than beans.
Sorry.
Match songs. Go, Tone. Get you ready for football.
Stevie Wonder's very superstitious.
Oh,
Really?
Oh, tune, mate.
I'll get free, innit?
Shades of Rhythm. That's probably it. One of those two.
3, Tone. 1, 2, 3. Just say Neil
Fuck.
Diamond.
This is like
you
watching
want-
Flux try and count, isn't it?
Probably Killers, Mr. Brightside. Probably.
Yeah, good
I'm
shout.
struggling with number 3.
I'll have to look through my Spotify.
I'll go.
Yeah, I'm struggling.
Mr. Brightside, Shades of Rhythm, and Under the Bridge, Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Stevie Wonder was a classic in our dressing room, don't I remember.
That, yeah, no, true. Superstition, we used to play all the time. I love that. I used to go on all the time. Shout that. Joshua, go.
I don't really have like. I've
Is
got.
that why you played so badly? Because you never get yourself up before a game?
Dunks, you don't even make the team.
Has he been playing this season?
I have. You haven't.
Come on, Joshua.
I've got a whole playlist. Like,
Mate, just pick 3. Come on, it ain't
Just pick
hard.
3. It ain't
we
different.
go there. Oh,
No one said stereophonic so far.
yeah.
I thought
that's me.
Tony. I
Stereophonics.
thought
That's
Tony
me.
was
Dakota.
stereophonic.
Dakota
No,
before
Mine's-
game.
mine's Dakota.
That's sign on day. That's not pre-game.
Supersonic.
Yeah.
Tune, but yeah.
Mine's not 19 Forever by the Cortinas.
Yeah, great song that. by the way.
Then Dakota by Stereophonics, and maybe a bit of Oasis in there, but not Slide Away. Something that's a bit absolutely gets you going. I don't know. A bit of Rock and Roll Star, that'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rock and Roll Star will do me.
Ooh.
I'll go
And
for
it's
that.
funny hearing them talk about Oasis, Tone. You think when it was all happening when we were playing, that filled the dressing rooms. Tom, have you done yours?
I would go Kasabian, Underdog.
Yeah,
But that's all right. That's okay. Red Morning Light, Kings of Leon.
yeah, another one. Good one.
Oh.
Some decent songs.
I'm
coming out.
gonna
tell you what,
go.
right.
No, I'm gonna go. Do I go Chasing Status or Block?
Ooh.
No.
Yeah.
You know what?
Block
I'm gonna go
Party.
for Block Party, Helicopter.
Oh, Banquet. I would have gone.
What was it?
Yeah.
What was it Psycho? Pierce used to famously warm up to, wasn't it? Firestarter. He used to have in the car.
No,
and
he-
he
was he the Clash, I think. Was he?
was it a Clash?
The Prodigy. Anything the Prodigy is not a bad shout actually.
Could imagine that handling out.
Bit of pendulum going on.
Yes, yes, Pendulum. Love that.
Lucky Key.
Conducting D&B.
Tarantula.
Bangers.
Next one.
There's
Bangers
nothing
and mash.
better though than a team blaring out their music in the dressing room and you give them an absolute hiding. Nothing better than that when they're giving it large.
And they get back and there's no stereo playing in the second half.
Yes.
You bang on the wall. Put the music on. Put the music
I'm
on.
gonna be a bit controversial. I prefer if you have a proper decent game. Do you remember when we played? I think it's first home game at Netherfield, and then you come back and change your afterwards. And when you have decent music after a game, when you've had a decent game, that's
better.
Yeah.
that's better. That's unreal.
Is that the first time you ever experienced that, Tom?
Yeah, it's the first game I've ever won, mate.
Moving on. So I have become absolutely addicted to the old Crouchy podcast while I'm cycling. And unless you've been under a rock, you know, at the moment, there's been things like parks and stuff like that he talks about. But he also talks about players. He calls them like, he's got turtles for players who don't edible. And he talks about buffaloes, about those players, those beasts at the back that he played against. Now, we all played in different positions. So you can't really talk about centre backs as such. But I started, while I was riding, thinking about it. Those 3 players, buffaloes, if you like, who you just never got any change out of and you hated playing against. Now, obviously, this would be slightly different for the youngsters to me and you, Tone, but I thought it was quite a good one. So your top 3 buffaloes, as you'd call it, but more like top 3 players you just didn't get any change out of and you hated coming up against on a football pitch. Going with Tone. Go on, start with you.
I don't know. I didn't know the names of people I played against.
Yeah,
Yes,
I was
you-
going to say.
That's
Come
fair.
on.
Not really. No, because if I
Really?
knew them, I felt bad when I kicked them. If I didn't know them, Didn't matter.
Did you?
You've come around and played against players time and again. I think it's a decent one.
Right, okay, so who did I find really good? Duncan MacArthur was a nightmare because he made me quit every time I play him. Luke Woodley was a nightmare if I played fullback. He was quick
and nippy. Yeah.
And niggly and horrible.
Yeah, I've got things.
Good lad, but yeah.
So it's different for different players. So a winger, a fullback's going to be different for wingers. So like you've got one more time, go on, and then I'll do my three while you three think.
But mate, I can't remember the names of people we play against. Generally, only local lads you play against. I don't know.
Really? I was thinking about maybe I've had more time to think about this. Say again?
Don't think about it.
Mate, it wasn't scared. You just walked onto some pitches and you thought, I'm not going to get any change out of this one. So the obvious one for me, even though I played with him a bit, but you came up against him in different places with Stuart Playford. You just came up against him on the pitch. He's a lovely bloke, but I think because he used to play centre forward as well. When you're a centre forward, you just walk on the pitch and you thought, because he used to know what you were going to do with the ball, you just very rarely get any change out of him. And also, you'd always come off a pitch black and blue, but he'd do it in a very nice way. Number two, probably that idiot in the top left-hand corner when we used to play against each other, Tony, because again, when we did play against each other.
Can I just say,
Tom's bottom right. Yeah.
Josh is my top left.
Oh, bottom right.
Tom's my top left, and I was like, what?
I can remember when I used to play against him. It's a similar thing. I'm not saying he'd come out on top, but I'd always come off the pitch knowing that he'd left something on me. He would find a way, even if I was at the other end of the pitch.
Back then, you'd always get a freebie first 5 minutes, and I'd always make my freebie count.
Yeah, and it'd usually be down the back of my legs.
Above the knee, throat.
And then the other one I was thinking about, Tony, I don't know if you remember this. There was a guy, I don't even remember his name, but I was thinking about it when I was cycling it. We used to play away at Folkestone and Victor a lot, or against Folkestone and Victor for the different levels of Hastings. And he played in that game. Do you remember that game with Dean White for the midweek league time, where Dean left that guy in a heap on the middle of the pitch? He was playing in that game then. And he was just one of those players, older school player, older chap, who I came up against time and again. Very, very nice, but literally used to always make your life an absolute nightmare on a football pitch. So that would be my three. You've got no one else. Josh?
Let's go to Tom.
Tom's walked off the screen. Are we editing this bit out? Because no one can come up with three players.
Well, I've never come against someone who's been anywhere near as good as me. So...
Mate, you get embarrassed playing local park.
Mate, I used to turn you inside out. Me.
All right, I tell you what.
Yeah, someone who's really, really annoying to play against.
This question is not working because for some reason you three don't seem to win.
I've got a couple.
Go on then.
Brandon Kovacs is so annoying to play against.
I can see that actually. I can see that.
The legs,
long legs,
everywhere.
Legs. Yeah, that's fair.
You take it past him, you run about 60 metres, and he just sticks a toe in and he still gets it.
Go gadget legs. I would probably say you made a good point. I play against Luke Woodley. Tony's a bit of a pain. I'd say Danny Woodley. I played against Danny Woodley a couple of times, and I didn't particularly enjoy that, I must admit.
I don't mind playing against Danny.
I played against Gav Ramsden once, and
Gav the Ram.
Gav's really clever. You can tell that Gav's played, and he kind of like, I don't know, just kind of like manipulates all the time. Like, he'd win fouls off you, and you're like, I've not done anything. He just kind of manipulates people really well. I'm trying to think of another one.
What's his name? Plays for Catswood now. Striker.
Oh, Andy Atkin.
Andy Atkin. My first game of men's football, I was marking him in the box. He pushed me back. I've kind of grabbed his shoulder to stop myself falling over. He's gone down, won a penalty.
Naivety from you, Josh.
Josh giving away a penalty, no surprise there.
No, do you know another one, actually, who's played a lot of that sort of level, is Guy Ballard, who's at Robertsbridge. If you ever play against him, he's just an absolute lump, but can play, to be fair to him.
Bradders?
I don't know. Because when I was growing up, like, I literally don't know any of the people that I played against, and I played up in Tunbridge Wells and Crowborough and all that way most of the time. So I literally wouldn't know anyone or at all. Just remember playing against this kid, and I think he played. I don't know what Tunbridge Wells club he played for, but he just had you on toast every single time. I remember literally we played him at home, and I literally remember completely losing my head against him and throwing an absolute mental one. So I don't know his name, but whoever he is, yeah, I don't like you, son.
Don't you remember Graham Overton? Played at Eastbourne. He was decent.
Yes, yeah, decent player.
Yeah, he was one.
Really decent player. I'll tell you the other one, but I don't think I actually played against it. So, did you ever play against Bawley? I got kicked from pillar to post in training by him, but I don't think I ever played against him. But again, Matt Ball, Hastings Town, you learn from him in training, especially when you were young.
Like that, though, weren't there? Tuts, Bawley, Liam.
Yeah. That's where Stuart Playford was like that. He's hell of a player.
Steve Smith is another one. Smudge was quality.
Steve Smith, yeah, he's a hell of a player. But Stuart Playford was just such a good centre back, such a good centre forward. Knew what you were going to do as a centre forward, so he almost knew what you were going to do before you were going to do it. You come off the pitch black and blue, but he was just such a nice guy as well. He is such a nice guy. So, but nightmare to play against. So, whenever you walked onto a pitch, whatever level, and you saw Stuart was up against you, yeah, I'd try and work out whatever I could do to go and play against the other centre backs. So I didn't have to be anywhere near him. So, moving on. Good question here. If we're talking about those kind of players, Crouchy's Buffaloes, Pass+Move, future Buffaloes, players that you look at now and you think, my God, I'm not going to want to play against them when I'm old. I wouldn't want to play against them in a little bit.
Harley Jameson.
Harley Jameson, absolute number one Buffalo.
No, Sam Gower.
Iden.
Really, Sam? It's Iden, yeah. Go on, top three. Let's go
I can
three.
see Sam Gower.
Go with Tone first.
Sam Gower, I can see that because Sam will just embarrass you. Just with his ability. Iden, I can see. There's so many good kids coming through. You can't call them Buffaloes. That's a massive insult at them.
How would you define it?
Right, he defines it. Right, I'll tell you. So when Crouchy talks about it, if he's talking about he classes the players. So if he's talking about Rio and Vidic at the back, or Rio and Stam, he'd class Rio as the Gazelle, Vidic as the Buffalo. So what I'm saying is, not Buffaloes, i.e. those kind of centre backs, but players like those players that you walk on a football pitch against, and you're going to come off, and you're going to know you've had a game.
So they can play, but they've got that.
Yeah, of course. Everyone at that level can play. When you hear them talking about it, Vidic could play, Stam could play. Yeah, basically, you could do Frankie Shaw, Harley Jameson,
Kai Bowen.
Yeah, that's a great shout.
He's tackled me a few times in training. I've nearly had to go off the pitch injured.
Yeah.
Tom Porter.
Casey in the 14s, Tone. Tom Porter's good shout.
Let's go top threes. Who's going first?
All right, I'll go on. Tone, go first. Top threes. And then we'll go back onto the topic for a bit.
Tom Porter, because he's also nasty. He's nasty as well. Harley, Jameson, and in a completely different context, Sam Gower.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Not nasty, but
he's just going to make you feel ridiculous on the pitch.
He's just going to make you feel like quitting.
Tom.
I'm going to try and choose different people. Don't want to choose the same ones.
Yeah,
I'm going to go Chase Shepherd.
Oh yeah,
100% Chase Shepherd.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm going to go Franklin Wright.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
And Archie Gunn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, Billy Hardy's another one actually.
Billy Hardy's got it in him.
He'll be like that. Well,
don't get me wrong, cracking footballers, really good footballers, but they just got that bite about them.
Josh?
Oakley Goldfinch, because he would probably turn me inside out. If I did get the ball for me, he'd probably get it back and leave a bit behind. It's a tough one.
There's a lot of them there.
Yeah. I think Kieran from the under-12s.
Oh, Kieran Ludlow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kieran loves it, to be fair.
Probably Arthur as well.
Oh, Arthur Chalmers. Arthur.
Yeah.
He's got all over him.
I'd go.
AC loves it.
I'd have to go. I'm going to go. Repeat myself a little bit. I'd go Harley Jameson and Frank Shaw. Those, because I've worked with them a lot. Those two, you look at them, you think what they're like in a challenge now. God knows what they'll be like in a few years' time. And the other one, he's a bit of a gazelle as well because he can play as well. Is Ollie Morrell. When you see that boy tackling,
I've seen Ollie Morel put some naughty tackles in.
And you think, how can something so small hit so hard as that?
If we're talking about naughty tackles, Josh Page,
Tom Hughes.
tackle you see?
Tom Hughes.
Not doing
No,
dark
that is
arts.
the best tackle
On
I've
dark
ever seen.
arts, yeah.
Sprinted the length of the pitch. He was about 3 foot in the air. It was unreal.
We don't encourage that kind of
No,
behaviour.
we don't. That's terrible. You really shouldn't do that.
To be fair, he got the ball.
Good lad.
And everything else. Then they're broken to next week.
Hey, we got left, Brad.
He's just looking over at Simon, his reaction.
I would go Harley Jameson #1, definitely. Just his kid's a monster. Then I'd go probably TP second, and then Ollie Morel. Some of the tackles I've seen Ollie Morel put in, you just think, well, give that a few years and
It's not just, with Ollie, it's how he uses his size, but it's the timing of his challenges for a kid of his age. It's the timing to his full body. Yeah, a little thin as well. We've got so many kids like this coming through. I mean,
they all use their body.
There's definitely some honourable mentions. We should get people to tell us what they think.
Honourable mentions, little Jacob Skinner for me in the sevens. Sometimes it does border on like, oh, really? But then other times you're like, crikey, for a kid of his age.
Iden definitely gets in there. Honourable mention, surely.
Marshall, Tom.
Yeah, Marshall's not the biggest fan of tackling. But when he does.
I'll put a weird one in it. In my team, Sam Lovell, honestly.
Yes.
Sam Lovell is not scared of anything. He will just go for anything. And there's kids like twice his size, and he's so clever when he wins the ball and what he does with it. Navithan just doesn't care.
Yeah.
Cameron Larkin doesn't care.
There's another one. There's so many. You could literally go through it. Do you know what? It's quite nice. We say it's a lot, don't we, Dunk, about when we've kind of done things differently for the younger age groups. If you go further down the age groups, there are probably more and more players like that because we're not coaching out of people, but allowing it more. The under 8s especially, it really, really shows where you've actually gone. People look at our teams in games and they think sometimes, oh, that's a bit, they're quite forceful. You want to watch training sessions sometimes. The under 8s, we purposely let a lot go. And obviously, if people are hurt, that's fine, but you let a lot go and you let them kind of, get up, get on with it. It's a contact sport and it's paid dividends hugely with that age group, I would have said.
We've had that chat over the years, haven't we?
Yeah.
At the beginning, we tried, every time someone would go down, we'd stop the game. Every time there was something a little bit wincing, we'd stop and give fouls against our lot, even if it weren't.
Yeah.
And I look back now, thinking we were wrong with that, and we've changed how we approach it now.
Tom, do you remember when we went down to Brighton with the whatever age group it was?
I think they're 10s
Charlie
now.
Ryan. That's
10s now.
Yeah.
And we went down there, and they were a phenomenal little side we had there, and they went 2-0 up, and they were playing beautiful football. And then suddenly the Brighton side, their physicality kicked in.
Yeah, they were just in a really good way. Just
in a good way.
Strong.
I think that was the moment we spoke about changing, because we spoke to them afterwards as well, their manager, and he said the thing is, otherwise, if you're not, they've got to learn how to use their physicality. They've got to learn how to deal with it. So you can tell when a child's hurt, right? And that's when you need to go in and stop it. If a challenge is naughty, you go in and stop it. But otherwise, as much as possible. And this was one of the top academies in the country, where literally get up, get on with it, play, just let it play. And that was a lesson to our lads. But I also think if we're looking at the growth and development of us as a setup, that was a big, massive turning point.
We learned a lot
prior to that, even on Saturday mornings, the slightest little scuffle, you were so worried about kids getting hurt, you were blowing the whistle, and it was doing more damage than good.
It's finding that balance, isn't it? Massive. I think we get it a lot better now. We let a lot more go. It's borderline. You still got to make sure they're safe, but definitely.
Look, very quickly, one to think about before, because that rolls nicely into our so-called serious topic for the day. But the other thing that Mass is on the Crouchy podcast, and I thought this would be quite funny, is he talks about who is Parched. And we all know the Parched story.
Yeah, Parched.
We all know what Parched is, the busy player. Basically, Tom, for you, Crouchy and his teammates pre-season, they're running, and then they stop. Everyone goes to get a drink of water. And they'll turn around. No, someone doesn't keep running. Someone isn't with them talking, having a drink. He's over brown nosing with the manager.
Oh, okay.
Right, and it goes on, and it's been running for ages, and it kept happening. And he tells the story. So there's been this big reveal on who is Parched. So, want to think about while we're discussing, fellas.
I've got it already.
Your top 3 Parched people you've
Oh, I've got
played,
two.
coached, or managed with? Top 3 parts. Not now. Hold that tone. Hold that thought. Mull it
Hang
over.
on.
So, what are you doing? Writing them down so you don't
'cause
forget.
I can't forget this.
So is it basically like busy? Is that what we're?
Yeah, basically busy people.
Busy.
Tom, I think we've got one already.
No, I don't want to hear anything at the moment. I don't want to hear anything. The other one, right, he talks about, which I love as well, he talks about turtles, i.e. people who don't edible, who can't edible. So when you're in games, they pull their neck in. Right? So we'll do that in a bit as well.
Get
So we'll have a
notes
mull
up.
over that. In the meantime, the topic of the day, the more serious topic of the day, flowing on from what we just said about Brighton, was what don't we do well, or what could we do better? Starting, anyone jumping in? Tom, go on, start with you. As a club, as a setup, seriously, just things, just literally what we think we could do better. And then I know there's a few questions from parents. We do then, and then we'll chuck a few more top threes in as we go, and then come back to Parch. Tony is absolutely dying to do.
I've got 2 of 3 that I reckon you'll have as well, Dunk. And one of them you and I both played with at different clubs when we weren't playing in the same team.
Yeah, interestingly, Tone, I've got a name written down that I was going to ask you if you remembered. So
I can't remember his surname.
WhatsApp me what you've got, the first name, and I'll tell you if it's the same, and I'll give you the surname.
Starts with K.
Yes.
Play centre half. All right.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes. Got me kicked out of a club as well. Out of a club.
I'm pretty sure you got yourself kicked out. But anyway.
No, you didn't. Anyway, but yes, massively parched. Anyway, go on. What don't we do well, Tom? Go.
I'm going to go communication. I think there's been a lot of, ever since we started, we try and do things differently. We want to do things a certain way. And I think a lot of the time, we maybe just expect people to accept it and get on with it. And we haven't been too forthcoming and actually having conversations with, especially parents, and saying, this is why we do something. This is why I've done this. This is why we're going to do that. And just saying, this is what we do. Get on with it. Don't like it. It's tough. Well, maybe we should communicate that slightly better.
I wouldn't. Is it right, Tone?
I'm laughing at you, not at Tom. Tom's point, absolutely.
No, that's what I mean. Is that what I mean? I'm right, aren't I? Absolutely right. These are sorry, we've just exchanged a parched. Anyway, Brad, communication. Go on. What Tom just said. Thoughts?
I don't know, because I'm not involved as much with it with you guys. So
yeah, but you're involved at a different level, so it's just as valid as a manager as the stuff you do. Communication.
It's not, Brad. You're not as good as us. You're not worth as much as us.
Oh, all right, cheers. I don't know. Thanks. I don't know. Go to someone else first.
Well, look, I think what Tom said is a really, really valid point. Go to Tony for a second.
All right.
I've got a child issue.
Right. No, I think Tom's point is very valid. We spoke before about, and I know we had a question and some feedback in from one of the parents, which we'll cover off in a bit, I assume, Brad, about a newsletter and stuff like that of what's going on. We've spoken about doing bits before, haven't we, of how we can communicate that. I do agree firmly that we don't communicate well enough what we're doing and when we're doing it. I think there's a lot of stuff we do behind the scenes that we just do and don't think about it. We don't engage with enough of the parents, the players, potentially, everyone, in terms of what could be better or what we're not doing they'd like to see, or what we are doing they'd like to change. And equally, what we're doing they think is brilliant. So we don't really communicate that well. I'd agree with that.
Just jumping on that time.
Yes, mate.
Sorry. You say about things we do that, because there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. We spoke about it before, that maybe we don't communicate. Do you think it's because we don't like
sharing?
Yeah,
it's my toy.
Yeah, we don't like almost bigging ourselves up and going, look what we've done.
Yeah. But a lot of it is.
We don't do that at all.
Right. So out of the 5 of us here, there's us 5. We've had John Joe gets involved. Luke does a load. There's other guys that really support us and help. That Dan and Lisa do a load. We've got Caroline and Leah on the committee as well. They all really get involved, and everyone gets involved in different levels. Stuff comes up, and I know I'm really guilty of when something will come up. I'll go, right, this needs to be done. I'll just get it done, and I'll just go and do it and not talk about it or say I could do with some help now because I'm busy with work, busy at home, or whatever it may be. we're all guilty of going, that needs doing, just do it. And we need to be better at, I think I said it before in one of the podcasts, asking for help. We need to be better at that. We need to be better at publicising what actually needs to be done. But I'm quite impatient. When I want something done, and if it doesn't get done.
Right, just to jump in there, have we
I
all
tend
had
to
it where
just go and get it
Tony's
done.
given us a job,
Yeah,
and then before you've had a chance to do it,
and I'm like,
he's
done
just
it.
done it. And usually it means the job gets done
twice a day.
twice because idiot brains up in the top left-hand corner has done it and not told
I'm,
you.
mate, I'm bottom right. Tom's top left.
left.
I was like, Josh hasn't done it. He doesn't do anything.
Oi!
Yes, I know full well. I get really frustrated when people don't reply, don't confirm it's done, don't do it quickly. I'll just go and do it. That's my head in. And I'm almost take the view of it's better if I just do it than wait.
So here's a thought,
always
right? And this is me just being devil's advocate here. So you're talking about us and communication, and I agree we need to communicate better. But at the same point, over 8 years, and this rolls onto a question in a little bit that we've got from one of the parents. Over 8 years, we form ways of doing things. And at the same point, if we open things up too much to debate and discussion, is that going to cause more problems than good? Because we've worked a way of how we think things work. And with all the love in the world, we're not saying we're better than anyone else. We're not saying we're right, but we're saying this is how we do things. If we open things up too much to debate, are we going to cause more problems than good? And that's a question to be discussed. I'm not saying it is. It's just me being devil's advocate.
Everyone works differently, don't they? Everyone works differently, and I work a certain way. The fellow who's just walked off screen works a different way, and I get really, really fed up waiting for things to be done. And if I need it done, I want it done straight away, basically. So if I work that way and other people work a different way, it makes it harder. So
let's not talk about that so much. I'm talking about, so let's talk about, and we'll come on to the structure. Let's talk about the structure of the sides, which we've got a question about. If we open that up for too much for debate, because it is a question that parents want to know a lot about. Why do you do it like this? Why is my side in that side? Why am my child in that side? If we open up how we do things too much for debate, what I'm asking is, are you going to create us more problems than good?
Yeah, you will. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm 100%. At some point, a decision has to be made. It's not being done. Everything we do at the club, whether it be pitch work, whether it be how we grow as a club, how we grow teams, how we grow the players, whether it's what players are picked into each team, someone has to make a decision. At some point, someone has to go, that's what we're doing. I think we need to be better at having a conversation around what we're doing and why with people. But you can't go, well, this is that team. Can you tell me what's going to go in? If you think, right, under 13s upwards, you're playing 11v11, you've got a squad of 14, 15, there's 15 parents. You're going to go and take the view of everyone who should be in that team.
Exactly.
That's an absolute nightmare, an absolute no-no.
I think
for me personally.
I think the other thing to think about when I'm kind of answering my own question slightly, and this brings us round onto the structure of how we do things in a minute, which we'll get to that question. But I'm just trying to find the best way to describe it.
Take my strong hand.
Child. Tom's just absolutely destroyed me there.
Hi, germs.
I would say with that quickly.
What I was going to say very quickly, I was being incredibly uneloquent and I had a fit there, was how many times are we all together? So if we're talking about the structure of how the under-8s work now or how the setup works, I've lost track of the amount of times I've discussed it with small groups of parents, but how much do we get the opportunity to all be in one place together when we're that big a club? So do we need to be better on how we disseminate the information? That was what I was trying to find the words. So if we're discussing, which we'll answer the question in a minute from Simon and Jim Butler, why are the sides the way they are? Do we need to be better at finding a way to get that information out to parents? Because otherwise you're having lots of micro conversations and then a lot of Chinese whispers. So
we've never gone out to people and said exactly how we do it. We've never gone out and said we have Saturday, Sunday teams. This is why we do it. That's where they are. We've also never been that fluid with the teams up until
this year.
Is it this year or the year before?
First
full year of it. So historically, we've gone, well, these players fit this team, these players fit that team, and that will be based upon, depending on the age group, be based upon the level they're at present, what they can commit to in terms of the travelling, because Sundays they travel further, what the commitment side of it is, are they training, and it varies.
Should we jump in very quickly and take it from the start? Tom,
cover off why we do what we do.
ask Brad. You've got the questions from Jim and Simon, wasn't it? Who addressed?
Panic, Brad. Panic.
Brad has not got the questions ready.
It was a question from Jim Butler and from Simon Hughes. Was it you, Tom, who put it on the Facebook group?
Yes, yeah.
Someone want to read them out?
Can I just say before we go into this quickly about the communication? Now that I've actually had to think about it, in terms of like when we go out and communicate to people, obviously now that Josh is a little bit more involved because he's got his laptop, it helps me out big time because there's things and it's hard because you want to put stuff out like you said about showing what we're doing, but I feel like that's almost why we've got our two groups as well. Like we've got the Pass+Move Facebook page and then we've got the SC Pass+Move because some stuff we don't want to push out to everyone. And sometimes you look at the stuff we post in Pass+Move, especially me, because like you might make artwork or whatever for it and it looks great, and you put it in SC Pass+Move, you think really we could have promoted that and gone, look what we do. And then I think communication between ourselves now that we've had this lockdown, and I know in the podcast, after the podcast, we sit on it for half an hour and have just a discussion, and even before about stuff.
Yeah.
So for us as sort of all of us, it's easier now, I think, for us to meet because we can just do stuff like this and discuss changes we want to make. But I spoke to Luke about almost doing like a census at the end of every year, every season. You could have like a little like online thing and you put loads of questions out and see what the parents want and what they think's working well or what they think we could put in to it. And it's just like a question. You could put like 50 questions and it'll all come back to us. We get the results from everything, and then obviously we get
That's
a better
right.
idea.
I
think because it's all
criticism.
Yeah, well, you need people's ideas on board, don't you? And if you don't have that, you don't know what you're doing right or what you're doing wrong. You need
what you
opinion.
was on about earlier when you said about will it open up to more problems than solutions? Essentially, if you speak to people more, surely that's better than the alternative. Than no one says anything.
I completely agree. I think if you know what
the context of what you're talking about, doesn't it?
If you know what the problem is, you can address it
exactly
in whichever way. You might want to choose to address it because it's an issue you think, no, we're going to ignore that. I'm not saying I'm being devil's advocate here, but if you don't know there's an issue, and we said this a lot of times, if you don't know there's an issue, we can't address it. That's why we always try to be approachable. But that's it's a great idea, Brad.
Brad, I'm with you on that.
It's a good idea. It's a great shout. Who's going to go on, roll out the question and we'll talk about the
Sorry, before you do that, do you actually think we talk more now through this than we do when we're face to face?
Yeah, because when we're face to face, you spend our time just putting it in
It's just breakfast. When we're face to face, it's just over breakfast. It is more serious now because you think it's normally when we go for breakfast, we've got a football game.
We talk about absolute nonsense.
But we go to football straight after, don't we? So we're normally talking about that.
It's just or Charlie Watkins normally.
When we're together,
we're talking about Josh Richardson
and locking him in the toilet. Smells so good.
Smells so good.
When we're together,
it's John Joe's famous quote. It's John Joe. When you say that, that's all I can think of.
When we're together, it's more about who can get the most practical jokes in, who can pick on Charlie or
Josh Richardson.
Yeah.
Oh, can we not get something up on the Facebook page of that John Joe reaction to that question that time?
I found that.
When his face melted on the screen.
Has anyone got a question? Do you want it?
Go and ask the question. Go on, read it out to me, Tony.
You got it, Tony? Yeah. How or why do the sides get picked? Thinking in terms of Saturday and Sunday teams, what's the criteria for selection?
Okay, well, if we start this from the start, and I've gone through this a lot with parents in the younger age groups of late in micro conversations, but we've never done it like this. So, as we've always said, the present 14s, 15s have always been the guinea pigs, and it's taken us all that time to work out how we think it works well. So, we take it from the start when a new group of sevens come in. What we do is we get to know the players, let them get to know us, and we put them as much as we can into friendship groups, but as crucially as we can, we put them into what we call development levels, because all kids will develop at different stages. So when they first come into the club, we will create 3 teams usually. This year's sevens looks like it's going to be next year's eights is going to need an extra side, but 3 as it starts. You'll have the green, which will usually be those who are developing the quickest. You'll have the black, they sit in the middle, and then the whites are the ones who, when they first come in, are at the lowest point of the development. But this is really, really crucial because I don't want parents sitting at home now going, well, hang on, why is my child in the white? Every child develops at different rates. And this year's sevens is a perfect example where you now look at how the whites have come on and how they're developing. And then sometimes those decisions that we make might be questions by parents, but we do it because of friendship groups or things like that. As much as we can, we try to structure a tier of 3 teams in the sevens: green, black, white. Then the next year, and this is the first time it's been brought in with the under 8s this year. And for me, Tom, I don't know if you agree, I think it's worked fantastically. What we put in the second year at under 8, we enter in a Sussex Sunday team. That Sussex Sunday team will play on the Sunday, as it says, and every player, as they develop from all 3 of the Saturday teams, will get a chance to come in and play together in the Sunday side as they develop. And that squad isn't rotated just on each week. Oh, he's played 3 in a row, we'll give another child a go. It's as they develop, how they're doing, how they're improving. Someone might need a rest because someone else has come through and developing well. And that Sunday side becomes a fluid setup. That means no child in the Sunday side is ever restricted by development. The Saturday sides will stay exactly as they are all the way through their growth. They stay in their Saturday sides and they enjoy it and they play as friends. But no child is stuck in a side thinking, how do I develop? Because there is a pathway for them to move from their Saturday sides to go and have a go at the Sunday sides, etc. Make sense, guys? Have I explained that all right?
Yeah, I think we've done it different ways, haven't we? Through the process of from when the 14s were 7s, it's progressed, isn't it? It's not just been like, that's it. We've kind of...
We've tried.
It's changed a bit. It's trial and error, isn't it? Essentially,
every year it's been slightly different. This is the first. Last year, as Dunk says, the first time we've done it that way. But every year when we started, there was always a slight tweak to it. Whether it be they're friends, so they go together, or these are the so-called stronger players. These are where these guys are. We'll split them, so we try and get 2 even teams, which is what we try to do at the beginning.
Yeah.
And we learned from that, and it took time. And even now, we still don't get it right.
Can I just jump in on that, because I think that's a really crucial point that you just brought in. First year that Tony said, when we did the 2 teams, the first time we did it, we tried to make the sides balanced, because this is a question that parents might ask. So we almost did that horrible thing. We go, well, he's good, he's not so developed, and we picked 2 even teams. It fundamentally for us does not work, because what happens is, the lads who are more developed will naturally have the ball more, and they will want the ball more, but they won't want to pass the ball to the young lads who are less developed. They'll do more on the ball. So they will end up in bad habits and their development stalls. And the little lads who are struggling, who are lacking confidence, who need to develop more, get isolated within the team because they don't get the ball. And consequently, their standard drops even more. So what we found is if you put like-minded children at the same development point, because that's how we put it, in their arc together, they'll develop and help each other develop quickly. And I think you've seen it in the age groups. If you look at this year's under 8s, the Saturday sides for this year's under 8s, not the Sunday side, the Saturday sides, and you look how all 3 have progressed, and how Grant's side have developed as a Saturday side, how my side have developed as a Saturday side. When originally John Joe's Greens were, let's be honest, they were head and shoulders. The other 2 sides are slowly developed and catch them up because they're in the right development groups. And that shows from the Sunday group, where you're not just getting John Joe's Greens, you're getting players coming from all 3 sides, coming in and doing really, really well.
I think everything's based on that balance between development and enjoyment. So, when players sign on a sign-on form, when parents sign it, it says something like your child will play in the team that your manager or the coaches believe is best team for them.
Yep.
Is that roughly what it says?
Yeah, that the varying positions, even in goal.
Yeah, exactly. So the kind of the reasons for that are mainly for development. So we're looking at it and going, well, exactly like Dunk said, if you've got players that maybe are playing on a Saturday, because generally the Saturday teams, the Rother League, because it's a bit more local, generally isn't at such a high standard as the Sundays. Sometimes that varies in different age groups, but generally that's how it works, isn't it? Whether you play Cromer or Sussex Sunday, generally, because you're going a bit further afield, it's a higher standard.
Certainly historically.
Yeah, exactly.
It was that historically. It's younger age groups. It seems to be a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah. So it's finding that balance between, right, well, they need challenging a bit more to make sure that they continue to develop, but also, trying to make sure to make friends and they're with their friends. I mean, previously, in previous years, we actually went, right, well, they're friends at school, so let's put them in the same team together, which is great because they're already going to get on, which is fantastic. But the kind of caveat to that is, remember I think it's a couple of podcasts ago, we talked about tournaments, and I said about I had an under 10 team and everyone was from a different school.
Yeah.
I think that now looking back on it, that is more similar, if not more important, making friends outside of your school group.
Well, that's why they all train together, though, isn't it? As a group, age
Exactly.
groups, they all mix together at varying times.
So I
And
mean,
that's
we
important.
had all that worry about, oh, will they be friends? You know, but actually, I think that's even better. If you can split them from their school friends a little bit and almost push them out of their comfort zone originally, you're making so many more friends. You're meeting people from different backgrounds, whatever. Surely that, from a personal point of view,
What is that? Someone's got a hurricane going on.
Yeah, what's going on?
So she was sorting me some lunch out. It was a bag of crisps.
Oh, that'd be lovely. Yeah, please do them.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, are you kidding me? It's like Josh with the
no.
Pringles.
The king of crisps.
But it's that not just the football development. Then from that point of view, it's the personal development. I would say that's kind of a big part of why we do it as well.
Yeah.
Anything from you, Josh? Because you were the year, your age group was the last one we did slightly differently. So Dunk's 8, Dunk and John Joe Grant is the
So I
first year we've done
think
differently.
that's actually that's a really valid point. Jumping in very quickly, Tom, and then Josh, you can pick up. So we've set out how we've treated stuff for the under 8s for the first year, how it will work for next year's under 7s, which we've got to start pulling together, which is obviously more difficult because of COVID-19 and coronavirus. But we'll talk about that at some point with everyone. So how does it affect the older age groups who at the moment aren't in that structure we've set up for the younger groups? So the 8s now have a structure that's fluid, that works, or we think works. We might change our mind in a year's time. How does that affect the older age groups who haven't been working in that structure? Go on, Josh.
I definitely want to try and adopt that because I see in training every week there's people that are progressing and developing really, really well. But then at the same time,
But here's the question, very quickly, Josh, to jump in, because I'm asking you the question on this. That age group, the 10s or the 9s? I guess it's the 9s, isn't it? So are the 9s, are they 2 fixed teams? Is the Sunday a fixed team and the Saturday a fixed team?
We've got Saturday teams that have Sunday players in it. So the Sunday players are from each Saturday team. And then they play on Sundays as well.
So there's no reason, if we communicate well enough and parents understand why we're doing it, that structure could be adopted.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, we do it if you look at the current, the 11s have got a real big element of that. So in the under 11s, there's some Sunday players that play Saturdays, and Saturday players, especially this year, there's been a bit more fluidity, and they've moved into the Sunday team as and when they're developing really well. I know Harley, Alex, Dave with the 13s. There's quite a lot of that as well now. Tone with the 14s. You look at Louis Selling this year, definitely. Hayden.
This year's been better so for me, as being the first age group that we started with, we got to a point where effectively, and Tom, you managed the one of the sides in this age group originally, and we got to a point where we were almost very close to it, if not had already happened. We were effectively 2 separate sides, and we were getting parents say, well, can we train on a separate night to them? And then there's in age group rivalry between the 2 teams, and that's not healthy for anyone. So this year, especially, I mean, this year my 14s have had a little bit of a turnover with a few players stepping away and taking on different interests, which is fine. And we've had Louis, we've had Hayden, Harry come in and actually play quite regularly. Yeah. Harry Medhurst and James training regularly with the squad as well. And it's difficult because you've got varying level of players. So for my age group, we train as one big group once a week, and then my guys will train separately on another night in the week. And it's trying to get that balance between squad harmony, but also trying to make sure that players are in with ability levels that A, push the ones that are doing are thriving, and B, challenge the ones that are striving. You don't want it to be that someone gives up because it's hard because someone else is on a different level. And I've gone through lots of experiment in terms of where we are with it, what's working, what's not. And it's been nice seeing Louis and Hayden come in and do really well. Freddie's come in and gone in goal now as well, and Fred's come from halves team. So I try to make sure we're close. It doesn't work the same as it does at the 8s, and that's obviously because it started differently and we're at a different point in it. But it's an interesting.
I think it's really important before we move on just to make sure everyone knows that just because the teams play at different levels and players develop at different speeds doesn't mean we value anyone any differently at all. Because I mean, we have exactly the same, conversations over Saturday and Sunday teams and players. You know, we don't look at them as Saturday and Sunday players. They're all players for the club. You know, they're all valued equally.
The
Absolutely.
other thing we try to do is I would rather us work with a child that's been with us for longer because they've been coached the way we want to play, and you'd like to think that our ethos on football and the style of play has been embedded in them as they've grown older, than take someone completely from a different club and go and.
Oh, absolutely.
I won't personally. I won't go and look for players. You could argue maybe
I don't think anyone.
But it only happens if a parent contacts us saying my
Yes.
child would like to come and join Pass+Move, and then it's whether they fit the group and it all works for everyone, for them and for us. But I would much rather work with Louis and Hayden from Harv's Saturday side, and can we integrate them in the Sunday side because they're doing really well. And that's, I'd like us to do more of that, but it's also making sure that the child that's going to come through is at the level to step in and be confident with it and doesn't drown, because that's also quite a negative. So in looking at it, and I'm not involved with the eights, but looking at it from the outside, if you like, that seems to be working. And it seems that every year we evolve, and every year it seems to get a little bit better. We could always do something differently. There'll always be, I mean, football's an opinionated game, which is brilliant, but there'll always be someone who disagrees with what you're doing. That's life, and that's what we spoke about earlier. If we put it out there for everyone to have an opinion on it, then that becomes too much. So at certain points, someone has to take a decision on what's happening. And for me, the person best placed for that is the coach of the age group. So we talk about age group coaches. You've got Dunk, Guards, Louis with the 7s at the minute, John Joe Grant and Dunk with the 8s, and then Josh with the 9s overseeing it, Tom, 10s, 11s. And it's how we go up through the ages. And there's always one person that will tend to make that decision at the end of it. And I think you need to have that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Cool. Moving on. So that covers off that. So that
Can we do
explains
parts now? Can we get parts done? 'Cause I need to bang this up.
No, we're
Right,
not
seriously.
doing parts. We're
I've only
gonna
got 2 as
hang
well,
out
by the
for a
way.
bit.
I'm
Oh, you
only
need
going with 2.
3. You
No.
need 3.
Well, I'll put you in then as 3.
Quick top 3. Top 3 bags of crisps. Sorry, just because
Oh, Matt,
it's
right. I
falling
mean,
in front of me.
Skips.
Skips. No. Skips.
I'm with you, Tony
listen,
Harris.
Not the KP ones, the giant bag of Tesco own label that's got all the bad stuff in it. The one that's even worse than KP. So the Tesco Skips, Frazzles, I'm with you on that, Dunk. But if you start eating them on air, I'm going to have to leave because it'll do my head in. And Walker's cheese and onion.
I'll go next. Frazzles, pickled onion monster.
Oh, get out.
Yes.
No, roast beef.
Oh.
No, pickled onion monsters. And a grab bag of Doritos tangy cheese.
No. Chili Heatwave Doritos.
All good from you, Josh.
I'm going to go McCoy's flame grilled steak.
Oh, good shout.
Yeah, see, I'm going to go controversially next. I'm going to go Twiglets.
Oh,
Twiglets.
Are they a
Twiglets.
crisp? Are they a crisp or a snack?
And no, they're a crisp. And
They're a
I'm going to go.
they're an
they're a
acceptable
snack.
bar drink.
No,
They're an acceptable
no.
drink of a pint in a bar.
Number 3, not Frazzles, bacon fries.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. The cheap ones. Oh, the cheap ones are better.
bacon fries.
Yeah.
From
The ones that
crisps
leave
are always
all the
better.
colouring on your fingers.
That's the one.
Amazing, yeah.
Stain your insides.
That's it.
Who's going next? Brad?
Yeah, I'll go for. I do like the idea of Skip's Tone, but I'll actually go for the paprika Walker's ones that they do.
Yeah, Brad.
I don't know what are they called.
Are sensations?
No, not then. I think they're called like deep cut or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So they're a bit like McCoy's, but the paprika ones are them. Salt and shake, because that is just a classic.
Old school. Yeah.
And then I'd go for Royster's T-bone steak. Boom.
Oh, I have to try.
If you've tried them, they are unreal.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Hey, and what's that? Because Caspat do the online shopping. What's that?
Get yourself some Roysters.
All right.
Pringles
Go on, Josh.
paprika. They're unreal.
Pringles, yeah, good shout.
Walker's Marmite.
Oh.
Marmite crisps.
I like
unreal.
Marmite. Don't like Marmite crisps.
Marmite crisps.
I'm with you,
are
Tom, on
unreal.
that one.
What's the sauce ones are nice.
To be fair, I'm impartial to a prawn cocktail.
Yes.
I
Oh
can't
no!
stand prawn
Skips.
cocktail, mate.
Get involved with cheap skips.
Wait.
Prawn cocktail is awful.
Go.
All right.
There.
No.
I hate them. I've got another one.
Partial
I've got another one.
Go on, Josh.
Post football on Saturday evening, if you're staying in, top 3. Now I know we're supposed to be healthy footballers. Yeah, don't laugh. But
Guinness.
top 3 guilty pleasure, like indulgences. So for me, to give context,
Salad.
1 would be Pizza Hut deep pan, cheese and tomato large pizza that I devour by myself, and Susie's not allowed to touch, larger size. Love that. Good old fashioned McDonald's Big Mac meal with 2 cheeseburgers on the side, obviously. And third guilty pleasure snack, just 2 massive great Scotch eggs from the petrol station.
Do like a Scotch egg.
Oh, Scotch
That's
egg.
a good shout out.
That's my 3.
I sometimes feel a bit guilty when I put sort of a higher sugar dressing on my salads. That gets me sometimes. I feel quite bad for doing that.
I'm the one that said at the beginning, no swearing, and I so want to say.
I really had to rein it.
Right, go on, do it properly. A massive Chinese, just everything you can order.
Yes.
Oh,
Good from
yes.
you.
Everything on one plate, mix it
Yeah.
up. A little
Yes.
cheeky Indian.
I steered away from takeaways. I thought I'd just.
Sorry, you steered away from takeaways. And
Pizza Hut and McDonald's.
No, as opposed to saying just top 3 takeaways, because I wanted to squeeze in my Scotch eggs, my petrol station snack.
All right then. Battered sausage and chips.
Ooh,
Nah, too
good.
greasy.
Well, no, I do like a battered
Too
sausage.
greasy. You have to have
I
it
bet-
greasy.
I do like a
Right,
battered
so-
sausage.
Speaking of greasy, got bored the other night, so I was just chopping little cubes of cheese, putting them in batter and deep frying them. Unreal. Unreal.
I was waiting for Tony to go. Sorry, lads, I've got to go. I've got something on.
Get that fryer on quickly.
That's the most Scottish thing I think I've ever heard. You just
That's
deep
unreal.
fried cheese.
Proper
Right.
mature smoked cheddar. Unreal.
Very nice.
Josh, I
Right.
recommend Port Salut cheese on a toasted crumpet, mate. Is the way forward. Get involved in that.
All right, Marmite on crumpets. That's the way forward. No, or no, cheese. Do you remember cheese on toast, but put Marmite on the toast
Yes.
first?
Yeah.
That's the one. That's decent. That.
I like
Or,
Worcester
no,
sauce. and
cheese on
that.
toast and the squeezy Marmite. Just squeeze the Marmite out at the
Oh
end.
yes, all the.
Well, Can I do mine now?
Go on,
Right.
Tone.
Chinese, however,
He's proper excited. Look at him.
chicken satay skewers.
Lamb
as a
boona,
starter.
chicken boona.
Tony's the most
Chicken
boring it ever.
Duck with wraps and a chicken chow mein.
Bang on,
That's-
Tony. I used
that's
to
how
go
they-
to Indians with you, mate, and you used to order
Or
chicken and
chips.
chips.
Yeah, or an omelette.
To be fair, when we went out for the curry,
Well, yeah,
No,
we
I
had like
never-
a kebab
no,
or something,
so-
didn't he?
Historically, don't like spicy food. I remember going out for when did we go out for the curry? It was Christmas, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember sitting
Yeah,
there
yeah.
like a 5-year-old and Luke ordering for me because I had not a Scooby what was on that menu. No, good though. And finding out what Boona meant to Brandon. Right. So Chinese,
Boona, double boona.
margarita pizza takeaway. I'm with Dunk on that, but I prefer the Italian thin crust. And
Bye.
chicken kebab. But
Oh.
the grilled one, the proper lovely
grilled
thing.
one.
Yeah,
Wait, Tone, do you remember sitting in the town centre throwing sausages at seagulls at 3 a.m. because we had too much food?
so good. Now, do you remember that chicken you get from what was the Kingfisher, weren't it?
Kingfisher.
Get the-
Oh,
4 a.m. chicken.
True sto-
Oh, it's amazing.
true story, right? We used to finish.
Grill.
Flames girl. Have you ever had a battered Mars bar?
Yeah, it's
No.
horrible.
I need to try one though.
Unbelievable.
Because this is the kind of thing that
Yeah,
I'm
Mars
sure
bar
as we get older,
pancakes.
we're all going to experience. Me and Aris, without fail, on a Saturday night, we'd go out and we'd always have enough money left for one or two things: a cab home or for food. So at 3 a.m. without
Either
fail,
or.
Food.
3 a.m. without fail, we'd call my dad, right, who would complain, but then without ever saying no, get out of bed, drive and collect us from wherever we were, and we were in some mad places sometimes, and we get our food. And all he'd ever demand is a few chips, and then he just want to talk to us all the way up.
Few chips and knowing how we got on.
That was it. That was pretty much it. That's the story for the lads are older. Look, before we go back onto Parched, which I know Tone's absolutely dying to tell us, what else could we do better? Because there's got to be more than just the communication.
As ourselves, play football. We could definitely do that better.
The men's side, yes, definitely. Practice as we preach.
Time's gone.
Practice as we preach. Although, to be fair, we should talk about that a little bit because it comes up, and it is a valid thing because we started the PNM adult side with a clear idea in mind of what it was going to be, the beginnings of a pathway, and it has been difficult. It's been difficult to involved in the kind of games we've been involved in, the situations we've been involved in, which I'll be honest, I don't think have always been of our own making, although we've not been whiter than white, and difficult when you're turning around and you're seeing young players of 8 or 9 or 10 watching you play while you were involved in that game and thinking this is sending out completely the wrong message to our players. Thoughts?
Tone, West Ham game.
Honest, people have seen it.
West Ham's all right, mate. There's been a few others than that. No, sorry, I popped
I was
out.
going
Basically,
John jokingly said things we could do better, and he said the adult side. But as we're on the subject, let's be honest, if we're looking at things we could do
set a better example.
We've set with our adult side. I'm not saying it's always we've encountered issues we didn't expect home when we set it up, but we might as well touch on it for a bit because parents have come and seen what's gone on in those adults games. So thoughts?
I just probably
Pretty honest.
Yeah. I will be honest with this. This is probably controversial. The last game we had away at Hawkhurst, I had the rate, as you boys know, at play. I was really unhappy with it. I sat after that. I sat back and thought about where we were, what we were doing. And rightly or wrongly, I have played in games that have been a lot worse than anything I've seen this season, and a lot worse, and have always finished. I think it's different at the moment in terms of, I think football's changed a lot.
Yeah.
And people like me who are definitely sitting there years behind them, in my head, I still play it the way I've always played it, and it's understanding how the game's moved on. So we could do better with that. I also think, don't you? As I put my earphones back in, I think I caught the end of what you were saying. I think it's very difficult when you're in a position. It's all well and good saying, well, we need to be better at this, we need to do that, we need to do that. But sometimes you're in a situation where things happen that it's difficult for you not to react to, and it's easy to say just turn the other cheek and walk away. That doesn't always happen. And in reality, in life, that's not always going to happen. I don't think. And I look at it now, and this is probably really controversial, but I think it's a very easy thing from an adult perspective for referees to go game abandoned and walk off.
Yeah, I get that.
So easy. They don't book players anymore. They don't send them off. You get sin binned, and I think it's such an easy way for games to get out of control. And I don't know. I'm going to stop. I will say stuff that will probably get me.
I was saying it. I mean, some of it. I mean, the big thing for me has been there's a big difference between aggressive behaviour on a football pitch, which kind of is part and parcel of the game, and petulant behaviour. And the petulant behaviour I've seen from us at times, but also from other teams, has shocked me. But I think there's a reality to it as well, which kids will learn as they grow up and they get to an older age. I mean, we spoke about players I hated playing against earlier, and two names came up. One was I spoke about Stuart Playford, and another one I mentioned was Matt Ball. Now, I played with them as well as against them. Now, trust me, if I did something wrong on a football pitch, if I missed a chance or something like that, Stuart and Matt, my God, they would tell me. And that is part and parcel of football. Being at a high level, being dug out by your teammates because they want you to do better, letting you know that they want to win, that's part and parcel of football. And I don't think you can ever eradicate that. At the same point, I was a youngster when I was playing with them, as we've got youngsters playing with us for Pass+Move. And if I got cleaned out on a football pitch when I was playing with those two guys at the age of 16, 17, they would surround me and they would protect me and look after me against the opposition in melees and things like that. Again, it's part and parcel of football. I don't think you can ever eradicate that, and I don't think you want to eradicate that because that's part of the game. But the big thing that shocked me with the Pass+Move football this year is what Tony said, how little it takes for issues to get out of hand, games be abandoned, which in our day wouldn't have even been thought of as a booking. It's madness. But the petulant level has been the big thing that shocked me as well, which just wouldn't have floated when we were playing time, some of the behaviour. And I'll tell you what, where it wouldn't have floated, those two guys I spoke about, just to pick those out, if I'd petulantly behaved like certain people I played with this year or against this year, man alive, I would have got told and I wouldn't have done it again.
I think that is that's different in terms of the levels you play at. The
you think, is it?
Yeah, 100% is. The higher up you go, the more serious everyone is with it. You've got to remember what we're playing is local football, and we're all doing it to have a laugh and enjoy it, and that's the key thing. But then you've got people, I put myself in that have gone too far probably, and I still play the same way I played 10, 15 years ago, and the football's different now to what it was 10, 15 years ago. You put it this way, you playing under Dean White, Jack Dalton, as I did, you couldn't manage players like they did us. Now, people won't stand for it now. People walk out of dressing room. You mentioned last week the story about the tea tray going up in the air. That wouldn't happen now.
Yeah, player
it's very
power
now.
is a thing now, isn't it?
Or player power, or players being more aware. I remember before we finished coaching Westville first team, Dunk, lots of the younger players in the side were doing their badges, so they've all got an opinion on how football should be played, how it should be coached. Now, how we play as Pass+Move is we want a possession-based game, play through the thirds. Can we play it from the back? That's very different to playing county league football when you're playing on cow fields, with all due respect, and you're trying to play out. I remember when we just on our B licenses, we tried to play out from the back, went into Jeff Rowe centre midfield, hit a bobble, bounced up, hit him off the knee or something, and this lad banged it in from the 25 yards out. We were bottom of the league, playing great football, but bottom. We were like Norwich, effectively. And from that point, we turned around and went, turn them round, we're playing behind them. There's different ways to play football. And I think it all varies. It's different.
Actually, I think that's...
I know my point on that is the lads that were playing for us, who were doing their coaching badges and had their philosophy on football of how to play, is very different to what it actually is when you start playing at a sensible level in adult football.
Brad, what were you going to say, mate? I think you had a point.
Well, I've got a few points on this, because as a club, I think when other people come to play us, they see who we are, so they sort of maybe get up for the game a little bit more than if they were playing another team. Now, I'm not trying to say we're the big who are, but if you look at us and how we set things up, and you look at our pitch at Netherfield, we've got our lovely goals and all this and all that. We walk out with the kids and all that sort of stuff. And I think teams come and they sort of see that, and they're like, there's a bit more of a grudge almost. When they come to play us.
If I played against Pass+Move, I would have the opinion you lot think you're better than what you are.
Yeah, big time.
I get that. But then I think that's where the youth side of it has grown so much. I think it's a natural thing a lot of the time.
It puts a target on you.
It does. Look how big we've got. There's clubs at youth level that for some reason will have a bad word about us. It's the same with Eastbourne All-Stars, same thing.
Yeah.
How many people moan about All-Stars?
How many times a season
right.
in men's games have you heard the other team go, cool, they're supposed to be coaches?
Yeah.
Things like that. I think, is it similar for you guys? I think it's the same for everyone, really. When you play, as soon as you're playing in a game, it's very different. It's like a different mindset, isn't it, to what you would be normally? How many people do you know who are very different people on the pitch to what they are off the pitch?
Yeah.
Look at Ross, for example. You know, Ross is
a wind-up off the pitch as well, to be fair.
Yeah. Agreed.
Look at me. I like to think I'm quite a nice bloke.
I think it'd be quite... I think it'd be incredibly difficult for us to... It's how far you go with it. Do you go, right, you're swearing, language when you're playing? In an ideal world, you go, right, look, there's kids watching. You don't say anything, you don't do anything. But realistically, when you're in that mindset and you're in the game and you're playing, it's kind of... it might be a bad habit, but it's habits that you're in. It's part and parcel of it. Same as, if you're trying to wind up your opposite number and you're trying to get the better of them, psychologically, essentially is what it is. Is that a bad thing? I disagree.
Two things on this. Jumping in quickly, because Tom's touched on it there. What you said, Tom, is I think was exactly what I was saying in my head, and Tony touched on it earlier. When we were talking about players you hated playing against, and I was talking about Tone when I used to play against him, I knew the first time he came near me on the pitch, he was going to leave something on me. He was going to come through me the first chance he had. And people say football changes, but for me, you see that in the Premier League, that hasn't changed. If you're in a battle with a player, that first challenge made me think, this is going to be a tough day. Yeah. Tony, it made him think, I've got him. I can deal with him today. So surely, in the realities of football, which is something that I want to keep touching on as we do the pods, that is surely the kind of thing we need. If we look at the full team's tone, and when they come up against certain sides, they need to let their opposite number know early on in the game, I'm here. Today's not going to be easy. Now, that's, I think, a valid thing, and I'm not sure how we get that across. And I think you're bang on with what you're saying about it. The dark arts, you joke about it, but it's true.
We spoke how aggressive, like the Buffalo. We spoke about them. Casey Mulwood in my side. When we first started playing was, and I mean this in the best way possible, Case was horrible. You run past him and kick you. And I coached that out of him. And I look back now going, Should have just left that.
It's
Yeah.
And it's
about
getting that
tweaking it.
balance.
It's
Because
tweaking it.
Case is one of our better players.
Yeah, but Freddie
And
Lapworth. Freddie
yeah,
Lapworth.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Now in the sevens, you look at that and go, well, actually, he probably has done some things in training and games where you go, you shouldn't do that, and that's a bit naughty. But the lad, because he's got that, it's not the only reason. Because technically he's gifted. He's a wonderful footballer. But part of him having that means that he's at Brighton, you know, and he's got that physicality and he stands out. He's a very, very good footballer. So it's.
I tell you, I had one with the younger age group a while ago, and I can't remember the player, but I looked at it and I turned around, and I think it was with Harvey, and I said, I quite like that.
Yeah.
But I couldn't say it to parents. What happened was, and Tone, you remember this when I used to play, because I used to love doing it. Ball went over the top. It was going through to the keeper. It was bouncing. And I would go at the keeper and I would think, I'm going to meet you with that football. I might get a knee in the chest. I might get a nick on it and score. But either way, the next time that ball went through to that keeper and he saw me bearing down, he'd hesitate. So next time round, I'd have a chance of picking something up and scoring. And I scored a ton of goals like it. Younger age group, ball went through, keeper came out. Our little lad did not stop. Right? Parents complained, but part of me was thinking, previously with Tony said like Casey, I think we might have coached that out, but I was actually thinking, just think he's been aggressive and he wanted the ball. I quite like that, Arv. And he looked at me and goes, yeah, but we have to manage that with parents.
As long as you're not being malicious, that's the difference.
No, exactly.
But
There's a line. Sorry, Brad. Go on.
So it is definitely part and parcel of the game, though, and no matter how far the game goes, it is a part of the game. Like I remember going into games in youth football. Like I'll take it back to the Hawkhurst game first with Ross, and when the incident happened, Ross was picking on him the whole game to get something to happen, and he got the reaction. But if the referee's not going to take the right action on that, then
makes the game unsafe.
But the referee should be. But the referee should take the right action, is what I'm saying. I remember going into my last ever game of football, and we were playing some team up in Tunbridge Wells somewhere, and there was this kid that every time we played each other, we used to wind each other up, and me and my mate set out to keep winding him up, keep hinting him, keep doing stuff like that to get him sent off. And what did he do? We got him sent off. Amazing. And that's how it was. But that's part and parcel of the game. But it is managing that and how you go about that. But I'll use you, Josh, and you're not going to like me for saying this. You do like flipping and diving around a bit like a little fish.
People kick me.
But the thing is, Josh, sometimes they don't kick you, and you look at the reaction that you get off of players that are a little bit older where that wouldn't have happened. Do you see what I mean? Because football is changing, but you look at the Premier League and you look at players in the Premier League and how much they're protected from referees. But I don't know if they're trying to bring that now down into our football, but I just don't feel like that would happen as much in our football.
I do think it's a really valid point, Brad, and I think there is maybe potentially an issue when I look at it, Tone, when thinking back to things I've just said a few minutes ago, that there is maybe an issue for me and you if we look at it from the level we played at, comparison to the level that the Pass and Move men are, and maybe we approach the game in a different way or we expect different things. I mean, perfect example, Tone, be brutal. How would you deal with Josh if you were playing against him, mate? Let's be honest.
I don't think we can say that on camera, can we?
Kick me harder, and that's exactly what I want you to do.
They wouldn't finish it.
So,
That's a fair point. That's a
exactly
fair
what I
point.
want you to do.
But I'm not. I wouldn't be the idiot that got sent off for doing it.
Yeah, no, but
Exactly.
the level we're playing at, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
All
right,
they hit me first time, I'll go down. They carry on, they get annoyed at me.
Wrapping this up, one question. Were we wrong to start the Pass and Move adult side this year?
No.
Tony's going to go, yes.
No, I think we did the right thing. I think it's been a big learning curve. I've looked at this year as a learning curve. I think the strategy or what we're doing next season with Tom Cousin coming in with Tom, having someone not completely, that's wrong. Having someone that's not coaching another team take it on will be a good thing, because we try to do it with myself, Dunk, and Luke doing it. We've all got other stuff going on our plate. When everything started to become hard work, I looked at that thing.
It wasn't worth it.
Yeah, it wasn't worth the grief.
Right.
But in reality, we've spoken about our strategy when we move forward as we get older, as Andy's team gets to 18s. So next year they're 16s, they can start to play adult football. My view on that will be, as they turn 16, if they're up for it, they can start training with the adult team. They can start to play every now and then, and we gradually start to see them in. That's got to be our idea for it.
Yeah.
And the ones that are flying, will go to a much
Yeah,
higher level
absolutely.
and crack on.
It's like Dunk said
But
earlier.
you need to have that halfway through.
I love the idea of when they're 16s, when you turn in 16, to have the opportunity to play, and they know, and the parents know that they're going to be looked after. The point Dunk made earlier, not just going into a random team, and if they get kicked, they're going to be left. They're the
We
players
just
that we
need to
care
make
about.
sure that our side of it is set up correctly.
Yeah.
We behave correctly. There will be, even next year, we Tom and I have already had a conversation about what we want from it. Even next year, there'll be instances that will happen. That is contact sport. That's football. You go and watch rugby, they punch hell out of each other, and then just crack on and get on with it. It's the petulant side. It's the wind up side of it. We need to be not getting involved in that.
Yeah.
I do think there's a bigger conversation in this, and maybe it's even the kind of thing where we spoke about getting the bullies or people like that onto the pod time for what I call the realities of football as the kids grow older. And I'll be honest with you, I stand here, and as we said about that instant where you leave one on your player early on, how we bring that in, and when we start thinking about those kind of elements with kids, should we be doing it gradually as they grow up? Should it be the kind of things you start talking about when they get older? But I think it's a bigger discussion, to be honest with you.
Yeah, definitely.
I think something we've changed though. We've stopped. We were trying to coach every time there was a bit of contact. We were stopping games. Oh, you're all right, which puts in the players' mind they were wrong. When there was a slightly late tackle, we'd be going, "Don't do that." We don't do that anymore because it's a contact sport. Unless it's something that's done deliberately and maliciously.
It's the intent.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
I think
we've got better with that, and it will that. I was never coached how to be aggressive. It's just something that. Yeah. When you're playing and you play with players, no, really? I won't coach it. It just happened naturally.
Did your dad not just tell you just to kick me when he came on the pitch?
No, that was my personal choice. Just give him the ball, stand an extra yard off so you get it.
His old man used to tell him to kick. I think with the exception of an age group that I don't mean to keep going on about, the 8s, I think if we have a habit throughout the sides, we create a lovely environment for kids to play football. But the result sometimes is we produce sides who are very nice. And I think you know what I mean by that, Tony, when I say nice. And I think that's something we've got to deal with, because we never want to change that environment for kids to play football. But the realities of it are you do need to be more aggressive on a football pitch.
But that's the same thing
within the right constraints and areas.
For me, that is the same thing of how you play. We want to play out from the back, but sometimes you get as much success of literally if their back line's really high and you stick it in behind to run through and go and score. Is that any worse than playing through the thirds and scoring?
You've got to play against the other side.
We coach them to play a possession-based game, play through the thirds. But there's nothing wrong with a longer pass or a longer ball. And sometimes when you're under pressure and teams are on top of you and you can't get out of your box, you need to go longer to get out. It's just it was always when I was younger, it was you earn the right to play. And in our teams, I'll talk about my side. If we aren't in the game to start with, we haven't earned the right to play, we struggle because we know how, last year, my personal criticism of me as a coach, we had one way of playing. And if we couldn't play out and teams won it off us high and scored, we were in trouble. And we were in trouble quite a bit last season. But it's learning that as a player and as a team, having the ability to change how you're playing. So do we play longer? And also being aggressive to win the ball. And that doesn't mean going and kick people. You need players who will go and win the ball and get tempo started, get attack started, defend your goal in whatever way you need.
That's so underrated.
That's football.
In terms of
Roy Keane, one of the best players to play Premier League football. Patrick Vieira. And football's changed a lot since when they played. But look at modern day football. There are still ball winners who get the ball and give it to the players who will go and create things. And that is, you need that.
I think there's also a big question around mental toughness, especially as they get older. When we've got teams who have dominated, who we've created sides, like the 8s, they might go on to be like it as well. Your Sammy Gower age group, and we've seen it before, Tom, where they dominate teams and dominate games. Then they'll go into a match, and we've seen it with your 14s team. Well, they'll dominate a game and be on top, have a great day, and Tone said, this is my season. They will then suddenly concede 1 against the run of play, and their mental toughness isn't strong enough. So 1 becomes 2, becomes 3, becomes 4, game over. And you walk away thinking, how have we just got thumped 4-0? And the last 10, 15 minutes of it is usually painful. And that's the lack of mental toughness. And you go all the way back to the realities of football with the way me and Tone were brought up playing football and the players we were played with. Those players had the mentality we had that you do not give up. You concede that 1 goal, you go again. You do everything in your power till the last minute of a match to make sure you don't lose. And I think if I see one thing in our players sometimes, it is that historically we've got a lack of mental toughness and they won't have that mentality.
We had that. We had that this
I think
season.
that's changed through the ages down though. I do see that.
I think we're correcting it.
Sorry, Brad.
Go on,
Yeah,
Brad.
no, all I was going to say is I've had that this season where we played in my under-10s. We played Crowhurst in the cup, and I can't remember what the final score was, but we literally got ourselves up for this game. So Crowhurst are a really good team, and we're a good side. And we got ourselves up for this game, and we went 1-0 down within like 4-5 minutes, and then they just scored again and again and again, and it's getting the kids out of that where they're just in a rut.
You say that though. The game before that, the cup round before that, I took your team, didn't I?
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything about that because I don't want to.
They showed the complete opposite in that. They showed a great mental toughness.
Yeah, but it was weird because in the Crowhurst game we went like 4-0 down within 10 minutes, and then we just completely dominated the game after that. And you just sit there and they started playing really nice football. And you sat there at half time with 4-0 down, and I'm going, I don't know what to say to you because that was really good half of football, but we're 4-0 down. So but we've had a couple of times this season where we've conceded 1 and then it's 2 and then it's 3. And it's just trying to how you manage that and get that mental toughness, like you say.
It's difficult. I can remember one with Sammy Gale's age group away at Canberra in the tournament, and they've been phenomenal, hands down the best side all the way through the tournament. I don't know why I was running them that day. And we got to the final and we destroyed everyone, and we played a side, it might have been Breed, I can't remember who it was, and we absolutely dominated the game. And they were recycling it, they were keeping the ball, they were phenomenal. Then Caden tried to switch the play, and it was the right ball, just didn't put enough weight on it, and they broke and they scored. And we continued to dominate the game in the fight. This was the final, but they couldn't get a goal, and they lost 1-0. And I saw their faces afterwards, and I think that loss did a fair bit of damage to them. But I like to think they actually learnt from it moving forwards, and that's the kind of toughness they need. I think losing those kind of games now and then doesn't hurt. It's making sure they rebound in the right way.
I have that every single day on FIFA.
What's next, boys? What are we on now?
Well, we're waiting for Thomas to come back, and I think it's important to say as well, we've covered off things that we think we don't do well, but
we had another
parents out
question,
there,
didn't we?
That's what I was going to say. Parents are going to have a question. At the moment, I'm trying to talk, but I can hear a voice in the background. I think it's Tom and Macy. Let me get back.
Oh, that's nice. Hey.
Is he back?
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Tom. We had an entire conversation there, mate. That was great.
Hello.
Go on. Have we got other questions?
I've got one more. Yeah, I had one from Joe Goldfinch. I'm just trying to find it. Right, hang on.
Because we spoke about things we don't do well, or we don't do what we don't think we do well.
Right,
I've got one. So feel free to.
Ready? I've got one. Here we go. This is from the Goldfinches. Let me just read it before I read it out because it might be. Yeah, that's fine. If they're criticising me, it's not being
online.
Right. Lots of clubs seem to have a player of the match at the end of each game. Why is this something that Pass+Move don't do?
Like that.
So it's not a criticism or what we could do better. It's just a genuine query. Why don't we have a player of the match after every game?
I think it can reward excellence or not excellence.
Okay, but why don't we do it, Josh? Tell me.
Why don't we do it?
I think it can create selfish players.
Toad's face.
Yeah. If a kid's looking, if I score 3-4 goals, I'm going to get player of the match. They could also stop playing how we want them to play. They could just go and do it all themselves.
Can I just add quick
using their teammates
in that, Josh? It's a pet hate when it's if you score today you get a $5.
Oh my god!
Don't start me on that.
Especially when it's
the amount of times I've had a parent go, I've got to pay my little David £2 a go. And please don't do it. Don't do that.
We had a kid when I was playing football, like literally like under 7s, 8s, 9s, 10. We had a kid who always played up front and literally would not give the ball to anyone. And in the end, he left because literally everyone just.
All right, I'll tell you what. Let's do this two-folded question then. Why don't we do player of the match? First one, and why are we not fans of paying players to score?
Very quickly, Crouchy podcast. You hear the story about Jermaine Defoe and Harry Redknapp, where Jermaine Defoe goes to Harry Redknapp and says, Can I have a goal scoring bonus? And he goes, why am I going to give you a goal scoring bonus? What the hell do I pay you for in the first place?
Yeah.
Come on then, Dunk. Why don't we give out a man of the match?
No, I don't. I think, all right, I'll take it for, I think there's a lot of reasons. But if I'm looking for one basic reason that a parent can understand, the reason I hate doing it is because I think it could create more problems than good, because what I see from a performance on a football pitch and what I'm looking for from little Johnny who's a centre forward or little Billy who's in goal will be completely different from what parents are seeing. So I might have a centre forward who might bang in 5 goals and I'll be looking and be quite disappointed because he hasn't done the things I've been asking him to do. But then if I give the man of a match award to a little lad at the back who hasn't had a great game, but he's carried on trying and he's done what I've asked him to do, I think it will cause more problems with the parents over, well, Billy scored 5 goals. How come he hasn't got the man of the match? When I'm thinking, all I've asked Billy to do is work on holding up play and bringing his mates into the match, as opposed to just turning and banging the ball in the net. I think it creates more problems with good in that way, in that sometimes what we're looking at, and they're not hearing the micro conversations we're having with the players, I think it creates that attitude. I also think it can exacerbate that issue over the goal scoring thing and the lads who are the most important to the team. Tom. I'm not sure if that was eloquent. I hope it was.
I think it's a really difficult thing from a coaching point of view, because when I look at it and say, well, training is, I'm more focused in training than I am in games on individual performances, and individually, are you getting out of the session what I wanted you to get out of the session? Whereas in match days, I think it's more of a team thing, and it's more of a, you set your goals at the start of the game, right? I'd like us to do this today. I'd like us to do that today. It's very difficult to go around individually and go, I'd like you to make this many passes. I'd like you to, work on your pre-scanning and, things like that. It's very, very difficult to do individually. So I don't think it's fair, if you're not focused on individuals during a game, to then give individual awards.
I also think it creates an unhealthy competition within the squad as well.
Absolutely.
You want them to be a team.
And what
I hate it.
The other thing is,
I see parents doing it. I see clubs doing it after games. I walk away thinking, God, I hate that. There's not many things that I hate.
People want to do it, but
and that's the other thing Brad mentioned.
The other is why do you give it? What do you give it for? Do you give it for someone because they banged in loads of goals and they've had an excellent performance? Do you give it to someone that keeps trying? Because a lot of people, it's like most improved. It's the one that we all hate, is the most improved award, because no matter how much someone deserves it, it's got that stigma of
you were really crap.
Exactly.
Now you're just not quite as crap as you were
exactly.
before.
And that's not how it should be, but that's how
What's the one?
How many of those trophies you got at home, Tom?
What's the one award?
Have you got a lot of most improved, or have you got Clubman's, Tom?
Yeah, there you go. That's the one.
You
don't want to be winning that one. Clubman's
Or
do
you want Manager's Player of the Year? Manager's Player of the Year, which pretty much is the Parched award of the year, isn't it?
Players Player.
I've got one of them. I've got
Brad, have you answered this, buddy? Brad, why don't we give out, or why wouldn't you give out a Player of the Match award?
I just wouldn't. Do you ever get asked to do it for the other team as well?
No, mate. Generally,
I've
based
had
on last season, I've been stumped, and I'm
times.
storming off to the car. I've got no interest in talking to anyone.
I've had that a couple of times. I actually had one manager come up to me, and I won't tell you who it is. He goes, "Can you do me a favour? I need you to pick man at the match for me, but you can't pick." No, he said, "But you can't pick number 9.
Yeah.
You can't pick number 2." And then he was walking off, and he said, "Oh, and you can't pick number 11." I'm like, "Well, how many players have I got left to pick?" I said, "Give me a number. Just tell me who you want me to pick." It was mental.
Well,
it's just,
to be honest, most of
the in the end, I just
went
went
attention to them.
So my view on this, why we don't do it, and I think you've all covered it, is that for me, it's a team environment, not a man and match environment. You don't pick out especially at youth football, development football. We see it on the telly. It's just a sponsors thing for the clubs and the FA to take more money. It's done differently at adult football. For kids football, I'm not a fan of it. I look at the whole thing, and if you've gone out and beaten a team that you're much better than, it's a little bit wishy-washy. And does it mean anything? And if you've been thumped by a team, every kid's disappointed they just lost. Does it mean anything to them? I don't think you need to do it personally. That's just my personal opinion. And again, it links to the under 7s, 8s, 9s, whatever age at youth football getting paid to score goals. Blimey, no.
Right.
Just don't.
that
Just,
one.
whoever's doing it,
It
just stop.
insults me. I think it's the most
Don't do it.
insulting thing. And I was a centre forward, so I was the guy who was getting the credit, tapping the ball in the net. But do you know what? Other than the fact that the mentality it creates in young players or in parent groups, the other thing that I think is so insulting, because I might be at the end of a move where I'm standing in the 6-yard box and I've passed the ball into an open net. What about little Billy, who at the start of that move has made a goal scoring challenge, got up and shifted the ball 5 yards to his mate into space so we could break and I could put the ball in there, but I get a fiver for it. What does Billy get?
So what you're saying is parents shouldn't offer money to their own children. They should offer it to the entire team.
No, to me as the coach that's coached them all week and made their job good enough to do
Give
it.
it to me.
Yeah.
My dad offered me money for scoring goals
No,
once.
he
I
offered
think.
you money to leave the house.
He offered one season. It was a season where I was playing in goal. The only time he ever did it.
A lot of time for that.
But it's the same with clean sheet bonuses. You used to get, like, you had clean sheet bonuses. I mean, keepers used to, but at the same point, a keeper keeps clean sheets. It's not just down to the keeper, it's down to the entire unit. It's the same mentality when it comes to a match.
Yeah, so in answer to Joe's question, we prefer to get it as a, what you got?
Burger.
Oh,
hello.
Oh, mate, no, I can beat that. Hang on.
So yeah, in answer to the question, it's
Where's
more
the ketchup and cheese?
we look at the
Take it back. Do it again. Do it again.
we look at the team environment, not the individual environment. That's why we don't do it.
All right, put some ketchup on it.
That's
Or have we got any
brilliant.
burger sauce?
Anyway, any more questions?
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Okay, so I've got 2 more from Joe.
No.
Annual question. No, could we, so in terms of improvement,
We'll get it out.
and Brad's already suggested this, annual questionnaire / survey to give parents opportunity to feedback what's going well, what could be improved.
It's almost like Brad's seen the questions before.
It's almost like Brad saw this and gone, you know what, we can tick that box. Yes, Joe, in answer to your question, we would look to be doing that. Brad?
Tom's working on one as we speak.
Son.
Yes, that's fine.
Any more questions?
One more.
I've got one.
Go on, Josh, go.
On the subject of top 3.
Oh, yep.
Top 3 Premier League personalities, not players.
What, current players?
Current.
Playing now or over Premier League history?
Over Premier League history.
Oh.
But I'll throw one.
Top 3. Oh.
Right.
Jimmy Bullard.
Yeah.
Oh, good shout.
It was the Blackpool manager time. Ian Holloway.
Holloway, definitely.
Holloway,
Bullard.
I love it.
Emmanuel Boué.
Yes. Oh, no. It's
Don't
the
blame it
winning
on
name.
sunshine. Don't blame it on moonlight. Blame it on the
I'm
boo.
going to go Cantona.
It wasn't Premier League, was it?
Yeah, he was.
I
Wilfred
apologise.
Boney.
I've got
Timothy
Bullard.
Timothy
Score some goals for Swansea.
He wasn't a personality, was he? He just had a great song about him.
Oh, I don't know.
Probably
That's
Mercer.
like saying Christian
Probably
Benteke.
Merce.
Benteke's Villa song was amazing.
Or Lukaku's United one.
Ian Wright. Right.
He's right in Premier League. Yeah, Ian Wright, Bullard, Holloway. I'll go with that.
Yeah, that'd be my top 3, actually. I'll go with that.
Ollie
Was Gaz a Premier League, though?
Twitter
Was
work.
Gaz a Premier time?
Gaza weren't Premier League.
Yeah.
I would go for. I love James Milner, so I'm going to put James Milner in there.
I like Milner.
Then I'm going to go for.
She would pick out Crouchy. Come
That
on.
is better.
Yeah, but Crouchy's a player. Crouchy's better since he stopped in terms of.
Yeah.
You say he's a player, but he's all right as a podcast.
No, in terms of personality, you see more of his personality now we stopped playing than you did when he played.
Best quote,
Yeah, fair.
Crouchy. What would you have been if you weren't a professional footballer?
Yes, that's the best answer.
That's decent.
He played well, Babby.
Yeah, he's done all right.
Yeah, James Milner. I go for Joey Barton.
Balotelli.
I did think about Balotelli, but I'd go for Ian Holloway because I love to hate that man like I love to hate Zaha. I remember being at QPR away, and I can't remember, it must have been a year or so since he'd left Palace or whatever, I don't know. And he was working for Sky, and he had to walk straight across the away end to where the commentary box was, and he just stood there and just went like that as he walked across like that, going like that, and there's all of us hurling abuse at him, and he's going, come on in. Oh,
Would you not put Mourinho in that bracket as well?
I'm gonna
That's what I was going to say. That
Jamie
Yeah.
Vardy.
I'm a Tottenham fan, but I'm not.
Gordon Strachan. Strachan was pretty good afterwards as well.
No, he's
in
not,
interviews.
he's not in that bracket, though, is he?
Was it,
Mourinho is proper antagonistic.
this
Yeah.
season when Vardy scored against Sheffield United?
No, against Palace when he done the ego.
Yeah.
Every club he plays against, he does their celebration. Man, what a man!
Good question.
Glenn
Good
Murray.
Adam
Murray.
Hall.
Adebayor against Man City away.
Yeah.
Man City against Arsenal, yeah.
I tell you, as we're
Lampard scoring against Chelsea.
topic for next week discussion. Any
Hey,
thoughts?
I've got
for
one
next
more
week's
question
topic?
from Joe
We've got
as
another
well.
question. Go on.
I've just got to read this through in my head first. Carry on, then.
You're saying she's not eloquent. You're saying
No,
Joe
she is,
can't
but I want to read it before I read it out. If I don't
Why
like
is
the
it
question, I'm
offensive
not
to
going
you,
to do it.
Tony?
Well, it
Are
might
you
be offensive
censoring
to us.
online?
I might go, we ain't doing that.
Tony
Right, no,
just comes up
I'll
with
just read it.
Tony's so amazing.
Go on, just read it. Just read it.
Suggestion for improvement. The annual awards evening is always a great event, but does focus on only one or two players from each team. A suggestion for an improvement could be recognising children's achievements over a shorter period of times, in addition to the awards evening. Maybe a monthly award for most improved, which could be about confidence, attitude or skill, or award for magic moment, which again could be about performance or attitude. So it hasn't got the ability led.
Magic
Can we
moment,
look
I
to
like that.
reward?
Do you remember ESF? At ESF, they have players watching the games, don't they?
Yeah.
Watching the
Yeah.
games, and you get the like magic
Got the
moment,
golden-
or the
yeah, you got
golden
the goal-
moment.
Yeah, got
That
the
was
golden
decent.
ball. Freddie
We
Noble
were-
won it last year.
We were changing the structure of the awards.
I'm
evening
rubbing
this
my
year.
head slightly. The end of season do I love, and it's a big event that we build to. That maybe again we need to explain what makes up that team of the year side a little bit clearer, but not now. But I also think it's a great idea in principle. But honestly, I'm going to come back to logistics of it as well. Sometimes there is just so much to take care of, and throwing in that extra monthly award, because if you do it once for one team, you've got to do it every month for every team. And logistically, it's a lot to deal with again. Those little extra things you talk about that seem like, well, parents might be going, sitting at home listening to me going, what a load of rubbish. It's only one award. But it's not. It's 30 teams making sure we deliver every year that award for every player. Then you're going to have the arguments between parents over players who are getting it and who hasn't got it. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I just, when you say that to me, part of me inside dies slightly because I'm like, oh Christ, really? That would be, I'd see a bit of a headache.
But that goes back to communication as well between us, doesn't it? Because I'm not being funny. There's no way all 16, I don't know however many managers there are now, but however many managers are all going to meet in a pub once every month to discuss the player for the whole club. And you go back to, was it this time around? I think it was the one before, I don't know, when we were all sat in Tony's dining room arguing over the team of the season.
And you're there for hours.
And you were there, and everyone's trying to get their bit in, and that was
great chat.
there was about 10 of us there then, and you think now there's
Yeah.
I think we're talking communication problems, Brad. What about me standing at the front for the presentation evening, wanting the world to eat me whole because you're up in the gods not talking to me or telling me what's going on? So I'm standing in front of
him with
200
his new
people
earpieces like that.
Brad, you've taken the earpiece out because you can't get things working and you don't want to talk to me. And I'm standing there in front of everyone with nothing to say. Good communication from Pass+Move.
It's funny, isn't it? That's funny.
So
Can I just say,
I think
it wouldn't be Pass+Move without technical difficulty.
No. Can I just say this morning I didn't have a technical difficulty at all. So is that good?
Do yourself a technical difficulty.
We're learning.
So the answer to Joe's question is, I think, it's logistics how we manage that. I would like it that we can maybe share things around as much as possible. We've had the conversations before about how we do end of season teammate of the year linked to the FIFA lineup, and I don't get it because I don't play FIFA, so don't ask me questions on it. We'll pass that to Dunk. But in terms of how we balance it, that everyone gets a share of it, it's the logistical side of it, and it's something I guess that we
very quickly over
time.
We'll do it really quickly because the pod's rolling on a little bit. But this is coming from me, and the reason we looked to restructure the end of season awards was I don't like the awards. I've never liked traditional awards. I don't like managers player. I don't like most improved players. I don't like club. I've never liked that. The thing we liked about the team of the season was it was a very simple way of putting it together, in that it would be awarded to a player in his level of side, at his development level, who has excelled in his level. So not the best left midfielder in the entire club, right, as a technical player, as an out-and-out player, but that player in his position who has excelled that year at his level of football and had the strongest year. So it might be a lad who's coming at under sevens who could barely kick a ball, who plays on the left-hand side and has excelled so much, as opposed to the lad a couple of age groups older who's just out and out quality player. But that youngster has had that development curve that year where he has excelled at his level more than someone else might have excelled at their level, even if they're playing at a higher standard. And we pick a side based on that categories. A goalkeeper, backs, midfielders, blah, blah, blah. And that's the theory.
Balance, isn't it, between having, if you have too many awards, they don't mean much. And if you don't have enough, then you're not sharing it around enough. You know what I mean? So if you had balance, if you have 5 awards per team, everyone's going to go, oh, and the majority of teams going to get an award. So it doesn't really mean anything.
Actually, Tom, just to chat this thing, just to cover off, because we were changing it this year, so parents know. The way it was going to work was parents were going to vote for the players within their team who they think play well this year, all right? And that would give a manager, say 2 players from their side who the parents and the players and he had picked. And if there was a player that he thinks the parents and the players have missed out, he'd add them in. And that would create a pool of, say, I don't know, 60 players that we would then look at and pick what we think was the Pass+Move player of the year. And we were going to do it as an 11v11 side with a bench of subs, and we were even going to do a coach and a manager. And that was going to be it, one big team, to also try and make the event flow a bit quicker, because we're very aware that we wanted one big sitting, which was why it was going to be at St Mary's in the Castle, which would have been amazing. One big sitting, everyone together, incredible evening, picking an 11v11 side and the people on the bench, right, spread across the entire club. That was the thinking and the idea. And I think it would have been fantastic. And hopefully we might still try and do it later in the year.
Can we make sure it's on a Saturday this time?
I think we need to do it. Whether we do it once the season's restarted, but I know last year got null and voided. I don't think we should be null and voiding every child's development.
No.
So, yeah, honest with you, I think a commitment from our side, we would do something at some point when we can.
I've had a message from St Mary's in the Castle that came in late last week asking us, obviously, if we paid a deposit, they'd refund it. But if we were looking to still host the event later in the year, my reply is very simply, yes, 100%. We just don't want to put that in place until we know when we're going to be allowed to be together in that kind of collective environment again. There's a lot of questions.
He's making the announcement tomorrow, and so we'll be all right for Monday night, I reckon.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Right. Let's wrap this up. So very quickly before we finished, we're coming back to Parched. Tone.
I'm going last, mate.
Tone's going last. So let's start with Josh.
Josh.
Your top 3 Parched busy people you've played football with.
Yeah. Harley Descala, Mr. Harley Descala, and Mr. H Descala.
Basically Harley.
Top 3 Harleys. Good for you, Josh. Tom, your top 3 Parched.
Dan Skelton.
Oh, you stolen my thunder.
Tom.
I mean,
right.
I'm amazed.
Jones,
we love you,
off my list now.
We love you, Dan, but you are Parched.
So Dan, I love Harley, definitely in there.
Yeah.
100%. I can't think of myself to an extent.
Yes, that is mine. That is mine.
I'll freely admit that. I've got a bit of that in me, so yeah.
Here in pre-season, Tom, we were doing runs, and I went to get a drink to speak to Tony, and I turned around, and you were talking to Sean in conversation, and I looked and thinking, then I think I might have turned around and said he's so busy to Tony, and it's only coming. You could have been Charlie Adams there, mate. It really that's way too much credit. Yeah.
No, mate, Charlie, decent left foot.
This is true. Bradders, top 3 Parched.
Mine was Tom and Dan, but I only had 2, so.
We
have a 2, so I chop myself in.
Need a 3. Top 3 is difficult.
I don't know. It was a bit busy.
Harley.
Just say when we speak about busy.
I don't know. Someone help me.
Oh no!
Keep that in.
In some way, shape, or form. I don't know how to think out the name.
Right, can we need a break to literally let it go dead, and then Dunk, you go. Dunk, what's your 3?
I want you to go first time because I think we've got the identical 3, which says so much, mate.
Right. Okay.
Oh, this is cute. It's like Mr. and Mrs.
In no specific order.
Dude, you got the same 3.
I've got 2 people connected to Pass and Move and 1 not. The 1 not was from when I played at Lewis, Mr. Kevin Eisted.
Yep.
Busy.
So
Busy. I remember we were training. We had to train on a Sunday morning. We got roped into Sunday training, and I didn't fancy Sunday training. Kath was at uni, and I was going up to see her the Saturday night. So instead of training the day after the game, I said I had a wedding to go to, and he called me out going, "Well, there's no church weddings on the Sunday." Mate, literally went to the manager and dumped me in it. I had a month in the Resis after that. Thanks for that. Second, Mr. Jamie Podmore. So busy at Westfield. So busy. Literally every time he'd have a moan up on the pitch, he'd look to the bench. When he don't love pods, but my word was he busy. And he's now coaching for us and at Eastbourne Town. So he was clearly a coach in the making. And last but by no means least, my least favourite linesman, Mr. Dan Skellon.
It's just absolutely bang on. We've got exactly the same 3. Kevin did a similar thing to me when we were playing at Aylsham. We just got promoted to County 1, and at the end of things, before I came back to Westfield, and Kevin wasn't happy with something about myself.
He went to the manager and said he's not actually Italian.
It might something.
Probably along the lines of you not training, Dunk. Let's be honest. It's bound to be that.
To be honest, he went to complain. I was banging in goals left, right, and centre. Got us promoted off the back of my goals. He went to the manager and complained about what I was receiving financially each week and the fact that I wasn't training. That very slowly brought an end to my time at Aylsham. So, God love you, Kevin. Nice enough bloke. And then Jamie Podmore, hands down. I love your pods, but so parched. And then Skelly. Again, love you, Skelly, but you're stato. You are.
Yeah.
I turn away from the 14s and I'd be walking around and he'd be standing next to Tone having a little chat in his ear roll.
He was good at playing when we play, and he'd have a moan about someone, and he'd always look at John or Sean. Always.
We're doing Turtle as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
I wanted to just kick things off and just go for a one-time turtle of just Tony Harris going for that first header.
Yeah, that comes up every podcast, every single podcast.
It does. You do.
So I don't go with that because that's not a turtle. I actually tried to win it. I just got nowhere near it.
Ross is a turtle. Ross can't hit a
Tom
football.
Saunders, absolute.
Yeah, I'll freely admit that I can't football.
Absolutely.
Brandon is a turtle.
Brandon, considering he's 8 foot tall, he can't.
Yeah.
I've got one of my favourite turtles, Tone, and he also is one of the most skillful players we've ever played football with. There we go.
Yeah. And Windy.
Steve
Ringers, Windy, and Tom. My 3.
Nicest guy you ever meet. Never think he was a footballer if you met him. He used to do things on a football pitch, and you knew what was coming, and the defender knew what was coming, but they just couldn't do anything about it. Could have gone so much higher, but I don't think I've ever seen him head of football in my entire life, ever. Yeah. Anything else? We wrap up?
I'll put myself in there. I'll definitely tell. Harley Descarlo. Do you remember Harley at Ways a Little Common?
Yes, I remember giving him his first team debut for Westfield. Literally putting him on and thinking I need to take him off. It was absolutely shocking.